Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha. It's hard for me to admit it, but I hate my child. Don't be in a hurry to judge me. You'll have time for that. For now, please just listen to my story, which led me to almost killing my son. I don't treat children badly. I just happened to become a mother too soon. I got pregnant at 17. Of course, my boyfriend immediately got scared of the responsibility and ran away, leaving me alone with my problems. Having a relationship with him was a huge mistake to begin with, and I didn't want to pay for it with years of my life when I would have been caring for a child instead of going to college and enjoying my youth. So at that moment, I wanted to get rid of the baby. Yeah, I know it's tough, but this is my body, and I have the right to choose. But my parents didn't even want to hear about it and forced me to carry and have a baby that I didn't want. And that just reminded me of my careless behavior. Of course, my relationship with them changed forever, but despite all of our disagreements, we were able to find a compromise. Since they forced me to keep the child against my will, they had to take care of him. This decision wasn't easy, but it was fair. This all happened 10 years ago. Now let's get back to the present. I'm 27 years old. I graduated from college and I got married. My life got better and I was hoping for a happy future, but one phone call ruined it. It was my mom. She called me to warn me that they were bringing me my son, Zach. Mom and Dad were going to retire in another country and could not take him with them. I almost went crazy with this news. It's not that it was a child I didn't love, but hadn't even seen him in the past 10 years. The thing is, my husband didn't know I had a baby. I didn't want him to know such a horrible fact about me, so he didn't even know my parents. I turned this page in my life, but my parents left me with no choice again. Oh, this was a very difficult conversation with my husband. This information stunned him. He didn't expect me to have kept something like this from him, and he said he needed a break to think about it. We were adults, and I know that pauses aren't ever good, and that they inevitably lead to breakups. And I was right. A few weeks later, he came back and said he wanted to break up. It was hard for me to accept, but it was impossible to change anything. As you might understand, I was in a bad mood when my parents brought me my son. And how could I even be happy that they brought me a 10-year-old child that I did not want and hung him on me like a load on a donkey? So here we were alone, Zach and I. From the very first moment, he started attacking me with a bunch of questions about why I didn't live with him, why I didn't visit him, and stuff like that. I decided to just tell him the truth. I didn't expect him to be able to understand the feelings of an adult, but we immediately clarified everything between us. Unfortunately, he began to be a nuisance from the beginning. I had a lot of responsibilities that I didn't want. I had to cook for him every day, drive him to school, wash his clothes, and keep the house clean. Zach was always trying to have a conversation with me and be nice to me, but he just didn't realize that the only problem with our relationship was that he actually existed. At the same time, I had my own worries at work, and I had just started to run out of strength. Plus, this kid took a lot of money, and pretty soon my life became an endless cycle that I couldn't break. Work, money, child. Work, money, child. It was driving me crazy. What had my life become? Thank God it was summer and I had the opportunity to send Jack to a children's camp for a few weeks. It was my well-deserved vacation. I looked at myself in the mirror and was horrified. I had bags under my eyes, a tired face, and unkempt hair. I was putting too much effort into a child I hated. At that moment, I vowed to not let the mistake of my youth ruin my life. So that same day I registered on Tinder and I found a date for the evening. I devoted the whole day to cosmetic procedures and choosing clothes for my date. It was nice to finally take some time for myself and feel like a queen again. So I started to go on dates and I got out of my depression. Even when Zach came back from camp, I wasn't going to stop doing it. It wasn't my fault he had to live with me. If you remember, it was my parents who made me keep the baby. I had a great few months, but then I found another person who started to try to make changes in my life. It was Jake, my boyfriend. He wasn't one of those fleeting dates. Jake had serious intentions and we became very close. He was a great guy and I had only one complaint about him. More precisely, not a complaint, but one thing I didn't like. He loved children and he loved spending time with my son. I didn't share that love and we sometimes argued about it. I wanted to spend time away from my baby, but Jake thought that was wrong. Oh my God. Another man who told me I had to put all my strength into a child I didn't even want. We couldn't find a compromise and we broke up after a few months. It was a hard blow for me because I really liked Jake and I blamed my son for everything. He came back into my life and ruined it. At that moment, I realized that I couldn't have a normal relationship and be happy once I could get rid of him. And I wasn't happy with the option of raising him through to adulthood, just to throw him out of the house with a sense of accomplishment. So I came up with a plan. I wanted to put Zach up for adoption. Don't judge me. It was an opportunity for him to find parents who loved him, unlike me. So I started researching how I could do it online and came across a Facebook post from one couple. They harshly criticized the adoption system in our country and said that they had dreamed of having a child for a long time, but they were not allowed to adopt for some stupid reasons. I wrote to this woman and told her about my situation and that we could help each other. After a short conversation, we agreed to meet. A very nice couple came to the cafe. They looked a little poor, but they had a lot of enthusiasm. It turned out that they were not allowed to adopt a child because they were not officially employed, but they convinced me that they earned enough money and that they could easily provide for a child. We talked for almost an hour and they infected me with their enthusiasm. They wanted to adopt Zach and they wanted to pay me monetary compensation so we could do the deal off the record without having to do the paperwork. Yes, they may need my help to sort out some school or health insurance issues since I will remain officially his mom, but it was worth it. It was just a win-win situation. After a couple of days, I packed up all of Zach's stuff and told him about his future. I don't think he was upset really, because in my house he did not get love at all. And with this cheerful couple, he had a chance for a happy life. So we said goodbye and I was finally free. I enjoyed myself for a few weeks. I could lie in bed until noon and sunbathe in the backyard without thinking that I needed to do something for a kid. But one day my calm was disturbed by a strong knock at the door. It was Jake. When I opened the door, he burst into the house like a madman and started yelling at me. He was accusing me of selling Zach into slavery or something. I tried to explain to him that everything was normal, but then he opened my eyes to what was happening. It turned out that Jake had continued to communicate with my son even after we broke up, and Zach told him about his new life, and that wasn't what this lovely couple told me. Jake said Zach was in hell, and it was all my fault. He said we should call the police, but I begged him not to, because then I would get into a lot of trouble. But this problem needed to be fixed, and we decided to bring Zach home ourselves. We jumped into the car and Jake drove us to the house where my son was. I was horrified when we arrived. The house was more like an abandoned shack. We knocked on the door, but no one answered. We waited for about 5 minutes, but then Jake lost his patience. He knocked down the door and we burst in. Looking around, we saw bottles scattered everywhere. Trash was strewn around the house and this couple was sleeping on the couch. They didn't even seem to be able to wake up to the noise of us entering the house. Zach heard our screams. He ran out of the other room and threw himself into Jake's arms. He was saved, and we breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't expect this couple to actually be crazy people. They were able to deceive me. But to be more precise, I didn't even try to understand everything and check what kind of people they really were. We took Zach home, and I had strange feelings all the way there. I realized that I was really worried about him. For the first time in my life, I felt fear for my child. Perhaps it was some maternal instinct that had atrophied in me over the years. I don't know. But as soon as we got home, I apologized to my son. And it was sincere. I don't know if he can forgive me for what I've done, or if he can forgive me for being absent from his life for 10 years. But I really regret it, and I definitely want to make amends. Perhaps this strange feeling will develop into a full-fledged mother's love for her child. Then I'll try to give him everything he needs. Of course, if he will let me do it. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you don't think I'm a terrible person after this. Would you be willing to destroy your future and sacrifice your life for a child you didn't want? Give an honest answer in the comments. And don't forget to share this video with your friends.